Introduction, Rick. Yeah, I'm Selina Wright from Ready Personal Training in Mackay. So I am from this beautiful state of Queensland, just an hour and a half on the plane north. To get started, I'm going to go straight into a little summary and pictures of what my crazy year has been like. So we'll get straight into that one. Thank you. So that's a very quick summary in pictures, and the song does sum up how I feel my life has been this year, just on one big mission. So I'm going to start right back in the beginning. I've been in the fitness industry since 2004. I was actually living here on the Gold Coast. I'd spent a year in Canada. I was living down here, and then I was hired as the head trainer at Ready Personal Training in Mackay. So I moved back to my hometown to take the job as the head trainer. To cut a long story short, on October 25th, 2004, I became the owner of the business that I had moved up to work for. And just for the record, after I bought that business in 2004, I couldn't pay myself for a whole year. Thank goodness I lived at home and lived off my savings. Not that there was many of them left. So I plodded along for a couple of years. I did the little that I knew of doing. And by 2007, I had seriously had enough. Like a lot of you guys here, you probably work your absolute butts off in the beginning. It was on doctor's orders. I had to stop. I was going to end up in hospital. I was on the verge of chronic fatigue syndrome, and I was getting no return for this. So I got business advice and accountant's figures to sell. I was ready to go. I'd had enough. But something just stopped me. I just couldn't. It must be my stubborn side coming out, and that real stubborn attitude to never give up. So I pushed along for a few years. I did grow the business along the way, as you'd hope to, And I also felt that if I needed more help, I had to try something else and get some professional help as such. So in 2009, I sought the advice of a local business coaching company in Mackay. And we did do some good things. We implemented some great stuff, but it just always stayed so-so. I just never broke that plateau. In 2010, so rewind about a year, I had 4 staff working for me, and I'd been seeing heaps about this fit-for-profit people, whoever they were. But what they did looked really, really, really good. So I looked in for it for a long time. I sort of hummed and hawed for a while, and not one to believe everything you read. I actually contacted some of their success stories and emailed them and said, what's really the go with these guys? So I just had to suss it out to make sure. I didn't doubt it, but I just like to hear it from someone that had experienced it. So in July 2010, I got the Little Red Bible that probably a lot of you guys have had. Around the same time, I was starting to get really stale in the business again. I felt like I'd been doing the same thing over and over. And I thought I'd tried it all, but I'd made a pact with myself that if I was ever going to sell or just close the doors, I had to do absolutely everything I could to make sure I'd given it a good go, because I never wanted to leave with any regrets. November 2010, as we just saw, the first thing I did with Fit for Profit was push-ups for charity. And I worked really hard for this event, and it was quite successful, had a great time. So then also in November 2010, at the same time, I was having lots of phone consultations with Rick, and I jumped on board with FFP Black Card, the Fitness Marketing and Boot Camp. I'd never done boot camps before. I thought about it, but I just didn't have the time or didn't know how to go about implementing them. But Rick promised me with all the done-for-you tools and systems, it would be quite easy to set up. So I actually remember Rick saying to me, you will make your whole investment back, your 2-year investment, in 6 months. And I went, okay, let's see about this one. So the first system I implemented was Duplicator. I was already more in a backwards, took a back seat role at my work with my staff, managing as such, and just doing a bit of floor work. But Rick also made me realize the importance of having a full-time or just an admin assistant to begin with. I thought I couldn't afford it, that I could do everything. But now I know the difference. My first admin assistant was a false start. I did put someone on in January who only lasted 6 months, unfortunately. But my admin angel, Georgie, came on board in March, and she's been full-time since day one. So she does 40 hours every single week that I thought I could do, as well as everything else. So I know now that I couldn't be without an admin assistant. February 2011, we launched Mackay Bootcamp for Women. I advertised through house list emails and just in-house. 69 participants, 199 introductory rate, that should say. So just on that, an extra over $11,000 of income. So for the March camp, I placed a full-page newspaper ad, needed 5 to cover the cost, so I was really worried because it was a big investment. We actually had 35 coming from the newspaper, 76 in total, again at that introductory rate of $199. Yeah, you can work that out, but the return on investment was, again, quite positive. I needed at least 3 trainers on every single boot camp, so I had to crazily find staff, and I actually got the services of one of my clients who was a masseuse. I knew a little bit about the body, and she said she'd come and help out for a bit just till I found some good staff, and she'd also been a client for a long time. So we place a full-page ad every second month, have this year, and we always get a positive return. In our winter camp in June, which it does actually get cold in Mackay, it does, we get down to single figures. We had a record number of 108, and the ROI was 2,553%. So to say that the implementation of Bootcamp for Women has been a success is a little bit of an understatement for me. It's changed the face of Ready, personal training in Mackay. It's changed my life, and it's changed over 400 Mackay women's lives so far, and now we're getting the men involved as well. So the bold prediction that Rick made early on was correct, except we actually achieved it in 3 months, not in 6. So Rick, you're right. Also, as you would have seen on the video, it wasn't all smooth sailing all year. We had a break-in February, which was quite devastating. But we were down for a bit, but certainly not out. So with the boot camps booming, Georgie coming on board, and the Ready name in the media more and more, we were outgrowing our studios that we'd had since 2004. The staff had no area of their own. I had no private area. It was just a shambles. So there was no availability in the studio in the peak times at all anymore. And with all the hard work we were doing, we couldn't really fit in anyone that needed those times. So one day I just had that light bulb moment where I knew I had to get larger premises. So it was a frantic 6 weeks where I inquired, got the premises, and there was builders, painters, plasterers, electricians, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we were in there in mid-September. At the same time, we did a Raising the Rates campaign, and we also changed the entire way that Ready signed up the clients to train. I finally implemented the auto-closure system. I timed it in perfectly to fit in with the studio. Like I needed extra help to help cover all the extra rent, all the renovations, everything I'd been doing. And there's nothing that scares you more than knowing that you're paying out extra and wondering where it's going to come from. So a lot of clients transitioned over to the new packages, and the results speak for themselves. Oops, sorry, that was from before. Okay, in our first 4 weeks of the new auto closer system, I got 41,240 from the presentations, and from the Raising the Rates campaign, 59,300 in 4 weeks. So that was an incredible month for me. As well as those campaigns, we were also running the icing on the cake, the 3-letter sequence, also timed to coincide with the new premises. So with that, we also got a little bit of extra coming with that, with a return of 593%. So the last few months especially has been my biggest months yet. And I also knew that through the craziness of those months, I had to set myself some personal goals from going insane. And so just to put a little bit more pressure on myself, I trained for 3 half marathons in 3 months. Mackay in June, and then came down here for the Gold Coast in July, and then Townsville in August. I did really well, so for myself. So I was really stoked that with all the craziness, I could still set and achieve some personal goals. So I also had a goal for a few years now. I just had to crack 200 PT sessions in a month. In a week. It was just a magic number that I needed. Working hard on it for a long time, and I always told the staff I'd take them out when we did. We went out last weekend, had an amazing time. So that happened all last weekend. And so to sum up basically my year with FFP, it has been crazy. The growth has been really, really, really quick. At some points, I wasn't prepared for how quick and how well it would go. So for a long time, I was very short-staffed. I know a lot of you guys have the same problem at times, and especially for boot camp. So you go back to doing those 14-hour days, AM the PM boot camp, and then working all day in the business. But if there's a job to be done, you've got to do it. And I knew it was only for the short term. I know that this has been achieved through everything that, all the tools, tips, techniques, support, everything that FFP has done, and just the belief that you can do it. So I'll just give you a few summary in figures. So for example, I just compared my, the last month that we did. October last year, 2010 turnover was 25,000. October 2011, so just gone, that was my turnover for the month. An increase of that much, which is 161%. Then I also put together the figures for the year I've had with FFP compared to the year before. So it's a comparison from November 2009 to October 2010, and then from November 2010 till now. So my November 09 to October 2010 was 273,000 in turnover, and just this last year, 498,000. So I've had an 81.87% increase, and if you take me back to 2004 when I was the only one working, I never thought that I'd get to this point and have 11 staff working for me. So hasn't come without a lot of tears, but we're getting there, and this is just the beginning. So how has my life changed? Quite dramatically with the staff and the hierarchy in place. I know that when I have a break like now, that the place is running smooth. They know what they can contact me if they need to, but I never, ever, ever get that phone call. On a more personal note, I have more freedom for doing the things I love. As I said before, I trained for the 3 half marathons that I usually probably couldn't do. And I've also bought recently a brand new road bike, which is my new love. My first ride I did was a 60-kilometre charity bike ride. So, for example, on Monday this week, I rostered myself on to do a boot camp. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I got up at the same time in the 4s, but to go out riding. At the same time I was out riding, I had 3 trainers working in my studio. I had 3 trainers doing my boot camps. So I've got a lot more freedom now. I do love taking clients and I love doing the boot camps, but what I love more is knowing that I don't have to do them. So what's next for Ready? Well, we've just started, so we'll have to wait and see. But my advice for others is just do it. If you're here and you're not sure, don't wait 6 years like I did. Like, just jump in. And I just had one quote to finish. As we were just saying, jump into the middle of things, get your hands dirty, fall flat on your face, and then reach for the stars, because that's exactly what I did. That's it. Thanks, guys.